All right, welcome back to another Wright Stew podcast. I am Paul Stewart.
And I am Brian Wright, 2 in a row in Speaker Studio, so we're doing good.
We're making it happen. And if you're watching on YouTube, you might notice I'm wearing my Peyton Manning football jersey because Peyton Manning's going to be coaching one of the Pro Bowl teams this weekend. So we're talking a little Pro Bowl, but a little bit of just all-star games in general.
Paulie, I'm not sure you could fit pads underneath that jersey.
Be a little snug. Maybe some kicker and punter pads. It's a little snugger than it used to be for sure. Yeah,
dude, that's awesome. Yeah, Pro Bowl. Does anybody watch this anymore?
Has anybody ever watched? So it's evolved.
Used to. I mean, like when we were kids, I feel like they still played a little bit. Well, I feel like they. I mean, like if you took video from like. Definitely the early 90s, but even mid-90s to the late 90s, I feel like players were still playing. It's really been in the last, 20 years, probably since 2005, where it's, and eventually they just took it away because nobody was hitting anybody.
Now they're doing, now they're doing a 7-on-7 flag football game.
Don't they do like a tug of war or something too?
Well, they do like a skills competition, a skills challenge. Quarterbacks are trying to hit targets and stuff like that, and I don't know. Like, I was never a big Pro Bowl because they used to do it after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
When it was a 1 week in between, it wasn't the 2 week. Now they do it in the week in between. I think it was always, an honor and a privilege for players to get named to the Pro Bowl. But nobody ever really wanted to go actually play the game because they used to do it in Hawaii. You got the trip to Hawaii. Yeah. It was always pretty cool to see all those scenes and guys with their families and stuff out there. But again, football is a sport when. You've either got to be all in or all out.
That's exactly right. And that's a great point. And I saw where at least 23 guys had pulled out of the Pro Bowl. Yeah. Like Lamar, Josh Allen,
and part of it Henry. Now, I think they're doing it in Orlando now.
Not that great of a trip unless maybe you got young kids, go to Disney World maybe.
Yeah. But Orlando versus Hawaii is a little different.
It feels like that's probably not as nice of a destination.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so that's... I'd probably stick around. I was like, I'll go play a game for a trip.
That's interesting. So my wife is down there with my other daughter dancing in Orlando for her school team. Okay. And so a lot of big events going on down there.
Yeah. Might be running across some NFLers around there. So watch out.
Maybe.
But so the Pro Bowl is clearly changed a lot over the years, and it is tough for guys because like that's your livelihood.
Right.
And it's truly an exhibition game. It doesn't matter for anything.
You probably get a little bit of money though, right, to go?
Well, I'm sure there's bonuses and things like that involved with it. But from a
would you go if you were put yourself, that's your jersey, number 18, Paul Stewart for the Colts.
Yeah.
You make it.
I'd probably go. Yeah. I'd honestly probably for the first few years, and then I guess it depends on level of success, who you are, that sort of thing. And again, we just talked about load management for NBA and baseball, that sort of thing. This is a different thing. This is truly an exhibition that again doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter at all
for your and
flag football is barely football. I mean,
it's a different.
It's almost like.
Well, there was the guy this year who was the flag football quarterback on one of the better teams, and he was like, I could play in the NFL. And then you watch his throwing mechanics, and he was...
he's like, I'm better than Patrick Mahomes. Shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up, stupid.
That guy's an idiot.
Yeah. I mean, when you say... The awesome thing about social media now, including us, everybody can have an opinion, but it doesn't mean everybody's opinion matters. And when you say stuff like that, you immediately disqualify yourself from anything you say in the future having any meaning.
Have he said, I'm the Patrick Mahomes of flag football?
Yeah, sure. Somebody could have said,
buddy.
Good job. And they'd have gave him a pat on the butt, and hey, you've won a little bit.
Whatever he's won, And I don't know if people are actually going to see that or whatever.
Are you going to watch the Pro Bowl?
Man, I do enjoy a good skills competition. I think that's kind of fun.
So you do enjoy.
So for me the NBA basketball weekend was always a lot of fun, especially growing up. The dunk contest and the 3-point contest, and they've added the skills challenge now. That was always a weekend I looked forward to. It was always fun. The game has gotten out of hand. Nobody's playing defense.
Now it's flag.
No, I'm talking about NBA.
Oh, NBA.
Yeah. The game's gotten out of hand.
It'd be interesting if the NBA was flag. yeah.
But yeah, so the NBA, I always enjoyed everything around it. And the game used to kind of be important.
Now it's like 180 to 165.
Yeah, it's like the scores are in the 200s, and they're doing, guys are captains and selecting teams. That's not East versus West. And I think the games have just gotten to be such a farce.
Have you seen any of the Japanese all-star games? They do baseball skills challenge, and they'll do bunts. Like, can you get a bunt in a certain area?
Oh, interesting. We do a little bit with our team.
Yeah, throwing. Like, hey, guy, field a ball. Can you throw and hit certain areas? And so some of the skills stuff that, I definitely think MLB's game is the best. It still means something though, right? It still determines who hosts World Series. Is that still what it does?
I think they took that away. That away. Yeah. So, so baseball was the first to do an All-Star game, July of 1933, but baseball is a sport where you can go pitch an inning.
Not going to hurt yourself. You throw up.
You're at bats or you're at bats.
That's right.
Right. You don't want to embarrass yourself.
Yeah.
And so and you're not getting hurt right out there. I mean, you can get hurt on any pitch or any play, what sort of thing. But it's the most true to form.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing with basketball,
and baseball probably has, and you might can speak on this. I feel like your big brain's going to be able to pull this. Baseball has such weird injuries. Like, guys get hurt in weird ways from carrying suitcases or walking downstairs or getting up off the toilet. There's been some weird injuries, and so you don't.
Sammy Sosa got sneezing, hurt his back.
Yeah, okay.
There was a guy who was ironing his shirt while it was on his person and burnt himself. Was out for a day. There've been a lot of kind of goofy kind of things like that. But again, the baseball is the most true to form. Where it's, and if you look at the scores of baseball games,
they're very competitive.
They just look like a baseball game. Yeah. Whereas the NBA, it's 211 to 212, whatever it is. And then the football one, I think the defense towards the end just started playing a little kind of touch football and that sort of thing, because they didn't want to hurt guys. They got it. They're a brotherhood, and they didn't want to hurt each other for whatever was next in their career.
Do you think that's more almost like a change in culture?
Well, I think money has a lot to do with it. Okay. Right, money has a lot to do with it. Because back in the day, making these All-Star games was a bonus. You got incentivized money to be selected to those games or play in those games. But that doesn't. They're making so much money now, just generally as athletes.
So you don't think it's culture? You think it's?
I think. Well, I mean, a little bit of culture, but money. And then again, we talked about low. It's an extra weekend. It's an extra game, and I think that's why they kind of treat them as just kind of goofy, fun exhibitions for the most part. Is because they're trying to eliminate injury. There's such an investment in these players from their teams. There was a tight end or a wide receiver several years ago who was a rookie, got selected to the All-Star game, and got hurt playing on the beach.
Yeah, so it tore his knee up.
Tore his knee up.
I don't think he's ever the same because I don't remember. I remember it happening, but I don't remember the actual player's name.
So it was Robert Edwards. He was a running back for the Patriots in late 90s. Rushed for 1,115 yards his rookie year. Hurt his knee. Doctor said he may never walk again, sort of thing. But he didn't play again until 2002, so it took him a few years to get back on the Dolphins.
And I don't remember anything.
Yeah, so he wasn't. But I
wasn't the same.
Had a promising career. Trajectory was clearly looking up, and then just didn't work out. So again, I think that's part of you're trying to mitigate risk and mitigate injury, and that's one way to do it is just to make it kind of silly.
Yeah.
But again, too, these All-Star games, I saw a picture the other day of the 1970s All-Star uniforms. It's so cool to see all the colors and the uniforms together. That's why I'm a big fan of baseball, especially. Hey, keep your uniform. Just wear the home whites and the road grays or whatever your road color is. But the Pirates,
I like that too.
The Pirates had the gold and the Phillies had the baby blue.
I was not a fan of Pirates unis.
The all gold?
Well, yeah, just some of those 70s or those goofy hats.
That's the 70s.
They look like, I mean, I don't know, just so bad. But yeah, I do think, I do agree. I like the players to wear their team unis opposed to just one generic, NL.
Yeah, NL, AL sort of thing. Yeah. So, Brian, I know you know this, and our listeners, I'm a big baseball nerd.
Yeah.
So, growing up, we didn't have the MLB network. We didn't have streaming or YouTube, a lot of these options where you can, like, I go back and watch old baseball games now. I love it. And as a kid, I recorded the 1987 All-Star Game, 88, and 89.
Wow.
So in the winter, I would watch those games. Because
like on repeat?
Like I was just jonesing for baseball, so I'd pop it in the VCR. And so the 87 game was in Oakland.
Were you surprised? I mean, I feel like you can retain information. So it's like, were you surprised when an event happened? What was the entertainment factor, I wonder?
Just love watching baseball.
Yeah.
Like I saw the game enough times.
And you can retain information too. So you were just jonesing hard.
Yeah, so the 87 was in Oakland.
How many times did you watch them? Like 5, 6, 7, or 8, 10,
in the
20?
winter, probably in the low teens. But then so the 88 game was Terry Steinbach was the MVP. The 89 game was the one when Bo Jackson hit the home run batting leadoff off of Rick Russell. Do you remember that was a big deal?
No, I don't remember that.
Okay, well, Bo Jackson 89 they were in Anaheim. Ronald Reagan and Ben Scully were talking in the booth. Like Ronald
I think
Reagan
maybe I've seen replays, but I definitely.
So second pitch of the game, Bo Jackson hit a home run. Then Wade Boggs hit a home run after that. Back-to-back home runs to start the game. So just that's what I did. So I love, and still, and Major League Baseball is still by far my favorite All-Star game.
Yeah.
And they've added the home run derby to it as well, which is a lot.
They've messed with some different formats, and I'm not real sure if I like the last one. But I think it's a great event. I do think there's some things they can do to tweak it. I kind of think out of like 10 pitch, I don't know. There's some things they can still do to tweak it, but it is, and they have done some things to tweak it. So, I'm home run derby. I'm a fan of. Obviously, the game I'm a fan of. It's definitely the best one because you can simulate without changing effort levels, maybe. To whereas football is totally different mindset. Basketball really is a different mindset because you have to lock in and.
Yeah.
But it does feel culturally like we've changed where, competing used to be good enough, and maybe it was a money driven thing, but now the NBA guys barely play defense, and
they don't play defense at all. No.
Yeah,
you just say go do another dunk.
And then the NFL guys, it's essentially
it's literally a flag football. I honestly I've always thought,
and I don't blame them though. That's a whole different.
So the Major League Baseball, 2002. Changed the rules after that because that's the one that ended in a tie.
Yeah.
Right? The 7-7 tie, and Bud Selig was over there like, oh, I don't know what to do. And the teams ran out of pitching.
Yeah.
And they went to 11 innings. And you get once you're out of pitching, because managers are trying to get pitchers into the game. And that was a little different back in the day too. Like if you were the starter, typically you went 3 innings in a Major League All-Star game.
Okay.
But now guys are going 1 inning, maybe
two if you dominate.
Yeah. But they ran out of pitching, and that's why they changed that rule to, and the whole slow was now it matters. Like the All-Star game decided home field advantage for.
When did they stop that?
A few years ago, they stopped doing that. Yeah, because I think it
must have been along the same time they did 3-on-3 in hockey in overtime. That's something that saw together.
Something new for us as well. Yeah, but that 2002 game was, Torrey Hunter robbed Barry Bonds home runs.
I do remember that.
Which would have changed it. Yeah, it carried him off the field a little bit. But that game, I think, it showed. Man, it was an exhibition. And if it ends in a tie, it's okay to end in a tie. But maybe change the rule to, hey, we'll do a pitch-to-pitch home run derby.
I like that. And throw like Bonds versus thinking out of the box. Maybe a golden batter home run derby.
Yeah. But again, that's.
Would you be okay if they did regular season games like home run derby?
No.
Regular season.
No, that's the same thing. Like soccer, dude. Soccer at the end of games. Soccer you play for 7 hours. The games are forever.
90 minutes, and nobody knows when
nobody scores.
Extra time. The
refs are like, "Yep, we got 17 more minutes. No, 2 more. Time's up." And then at the end of the game, you have penalty kicks to decide who wins. But that's not right. That's you just played for 90 minutes.
Yeah,
and now you're doing penalty. That's
you're not a fan.
Yeah, no, I don't like that.
That's fair.
And the same way with so baseball has put the runner on second base, the ITB thing. Don't like that either. Like, man, you just played. You gotta earn your way onto the bag.
I like the thought process, but I do like the idea that it adds.
Well, they're trying to speed it up to get some runs,
and it adds. Honestly, in a lot of cases with that, it adds like old school baseball because it makes a ton of sense if you're a righty batter to push a bunt right there, get that runner on third.
But nobody's bunting. So international tiebreaker rules for those who aren't familiar. We saw it a lot in the softball world growing up, right? Because you would have games going to extra innings or time, and you needed to finish them because you were in a tournament format. So what they do is they put a runner automatically on second base.
Yeah.
And then typically what coaches in softball do was they'll bunt over.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they'll bunt them in, especially if you're that first team. Some teams will just let their hit kids swing away, and depending on what kind of format if it's showcase, they'll just swing or whatever. But, and I was curious to see how baseball kind of approached it. Baseball didn't bunt a lot. I saw a handful. They didn't. I mean, they're just like, let our guys swing.
Yeah, I think we were texting back and forth during one game, and I was like, dude, they got to bunt here. They got to bunt here.
Well, because the home team or the home team had held the visiting team in the top half. Like, man, it's a bunt and a ground ball or a bunt and a pop up.
That's right.
And you win the ball game. And you should have.
I'm sure there's some analytics that maybe disregard that. Obviously, as a hitter, I never wanted to bunt, but as a fan of winning baseball, there are certain situations that it makes sense.
Yeah, and that's what's weird about a lot of the baseball stuff now. Is like, all right, the objective of the game in all sports games is score more points
or run,
or allow less points than the other team, right? And so we get so caught up in like home runs and drive, whatever it is, but it's like, man, it shouldn't matter how you score the points or score the runs. Just get the guy across the plate. If it's two bunts that does that.
No, I don't disagree.
Bunting was as a pitcher, bunting was a tough thing to cover.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when you finish your pitch, you're in a kind of an unnatural, unathletic position. And then if they bunt, especially if they bunt up the third baseline to be a right-handed pitcher, you've got. And then as a lefty, that's a tough one because you've either got to do a pop-up slide, or quick spin and throw. But and then for a third baseman to charge and have to throw on the run, that's a really tough play.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I mean, I think it's a play that maybe comes back with some teams that don't have a ton of power, and it kind of reiterates to me that average. It's weird how average has become a stat that's not very important. It's the fourth or fifth stat that you look at.
Oh yeah.
And so, and home run seems to be number one, and then your OPS and all this other stuff, and slugging is a combination of all those things, and so our OPS is a combination of all those things. So it doesn't really make sense. But average is not the most important stat, but you got to have guys on base, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I was kind of thinking through different All-Star memories, and I was a year old, but 1979.
Okay.
The game ended with Pete Rose
killing that guy at home plate.
Ray Fosse ran him over in 1979. Yeah, but again, I think that's that old school. And you hear the stories of National League versus American League back in the day.
They didn't play each other except in the World Series.
Yeah, they wanted to prove like, hey, the NL was the best or the AL, and they genuinely didn't like each other.
Well, I feel like that was kind of the same way in the Pro Bowl back in the day.
Yeah, I feel like AFC was a bigger rival, or East versus West in the NBA. Yeah, it did really feel that way. It felt
like it meant a little bit more. Now you've done all these cross battles and free agency and everything, and a lot of people train the same.
So you asked me why do you think the games have devolved into more just kind of exhibition? And a Pro Bowl will set aside because that, for injury's sake, that makes sense. But for basketball and hockey to some extent, it's kind of become a very high scoring.
Yeah, they don't really get after it, and they don't push the same, and
again, hockey though it's
challenges
you're hitting each other and stuff. Yeah.
So I do feel like
it's more NBA. I think this is one where.
Well, I think all of them have changed, and I do think it's some culture, and I think you hit on it originally. It's money because people realize that if I don't want somebody going after me in an extremely aggressive way in a situation that don't matter.
Yeah.
And I think at one point in time, competition was competition, and guys wanted to go out and prove themselves because guys weren't on TV as much.
That's true,
and there definitely wasn't the ESPNs. ESPN's been around since the 80s, but wasn't nearly as prominent in the 80s.
Yeah.
And so I do think there was some guys that were wanting to prove themselves against competition or whatever.
That's funny you mentioned being on TV. So I had an old hitting guy. He wasn't my hitting coach, but he was like a roving guy for the Brewers at the time. Larry Heisel.
Okay.
Played in the 60s, 70s, but was with the Twins. And so they used to have like a Saturday game of the week. And the Twins weren't on it a ton. Twins weren't on it a ton. He said one day he was playing outfield. And there was a play, something happened, kind of the gap, and he went over. He was the second guy to get there. The right fielder threw it in. And then the right fielder just goes down. And he said, "Oh man, you okay? What?" He goes, "Man." He goes, "This is nationally televised. I ain't seen my family since spring training. I'm just trying to get some TV time.
Wow. And so he really wasn't hurt. He played it off the whole.
So I think he did like a couple extra steps and ran into the fence and laid there. And he said, sure enough, the trainers came out.
That's funny.
And so again, that's back in the 60s.
Still some of that spirit in baseball kids today. Like you make a play,
a little bit of drama,
and you lay there like you've been shot. That's a little bit much. Yeah. I like popping right back up. I like even if you've scraped your knee or you feel a little something that's not right, get back up.
That's always. I think in football they've really trained them just to stay down because I remember seeing so many times guys would pop up. And they might, we used to call it bell rung or seeing stars, but they legitimately have a concussion. They stand up and then they start wobbling.
Right? If your eyes are crossed, like there's a guy, the cornerback for, I can't remember, but there was a cornerback who had a concussion the previous week, played last week against the Chiefs.
Yeah,
and he got a concussion, and they picked him up, and you could tell his eyes just weren't right. Yeah, he got up, and he was like. He wasn't right.
They start going to the wrong sideline.
And guys are holding him up. It's kind of crazy, though. I mean, football in itself, when you think about the violence and how culture has changed, that it still exists. I know it's very much ingrained because it is the most popular sport.
Oh, yeah.
But how violent it is and really, truly how dangerous. There's only so much you can do to prevent injury when you got
250-pound men hitting each other as hard as they
can. Full throttle. And it's like, dude, there's not... Or, in some cases, you have a 225-pound guy hitting a 180-pound guy or a 320-pound guy hitting a 190-pound guy.
Could you imagine if you and I just went in the backyard right now and just, ran into each other?
No, it wouldn't be good for me. And now...
It would hurt me.
Hey, I probably my weight would indicate I could play linebacker now, but it would my normal non-holiday heavyweight would indicate I would be a tweener, and so yeah.
So do you have any fond memories of playing in any sort of all-star game? Like at NC State, did you make any team? And I know
we did. They don't do that in college.
I didn't make the all-star.
Yeah, I didn't make the Cape all-star. I didn't swing well. I think that's where our kids will be much more advanced. I didn't swing wood a ton until the Cape, and so I didn't swing it that well up there either year. So I never made an all-star team. Obviously, college, it doesn't matter, right? There's no game that you go to. You just make the all-ACC. And then in pro baseball, I wasn't non-hurt enough to make any team. Yeah. And so I never did. I assume maybe you made...
never in...
That's why you didn't get on that 40-man for the Brewers. That's why when you re-signed...
That year I started... the first month of the year, I started 0-5 with like a 13 ERA. And I was legit thinking... I thought I was done playing. And then just it turned around
Was there anything specifically? Obviously, mentally, you're beating yourself up. Were you missing spots? I'm sure you can recall this stuff.
So changed where I stood on the rubber. I went from going from the third base side to the first base side, and so I naturally stepped across my body. So I think
your ball ran,
could reach the outside corner of the play a little more. Ball moved a ton, and so that was a slight mechanical, and then just a mental adjustment. It's let's go win. So there was dude, I was terrible for the first month. And I remember I was out in the bullpen.
Was your velocity down?
No, same. Everything was same. But it was more of a mental so went down to the bullpen. Pitchers were getting ready to do their throwing or running. And I was out there by myself, just in my feelings. And
I'm sure.
A guy named Andy High came out to pitch. So Andy High is from High Point and just happened to be from High Point. And he was the next guy. And he's like, Stu, what the F is wrong with you? I'm like, what do you? I was like, I suck, man. I can't get anybody out. He's like, no. He's like, you're good. You're fine. I see you throw bullpens. You're fine. He's like, go out there. Stop worrying about all the stuff. Just try to win a ball game. Mm. I was like, what do you mean?
Because you'd kind of gotten into that mindset.
Yeah, of more process. He's like, forget all that. He goes, treat it like you're in high school and you're trying to beat your rival. Go win. Just try to win. And that really changed the way I thought about and so I went up and I just truly competed. I stopped because you get in that mindset of, mechanics. This has to be this. It's the process. It's at some point you got to put up results.
That's right.
Prospects become suspects really quick.
Really quick. Yeah.
And so it was actually I've got it on my wall over here. There's a picture of the first game that I really put together that season. It was the first end of a doubleheader, but I got my picture of the Huntsville Times.
What'd you finish up that year? So you start off.
So 13, I started 0-5
with 13
with like a 13. Ended up 12-9 with like a 3.2. So, man, just significant.
So you're talking. You pitched well below that, considering.
Yeah, I was like a 2.4 the rest of the year from that point forward.
Wow.
But yeah,
but really, just a change in mindset, change.
Little change in where I stood on the rubber, and then that mindset is like.
You've told me before that if you had one thing that you go back and change, would be you would throw your forkball.
Yeah. They told me to stop throwing it after my second full.
Did you ever almost bring it back, or did you ever bring it back?
No, it's too coachable. Too stupid. Should have just stuck with it.
Even when you signed with a new organization, did it?
Well, I stopped throwing it. No, not really. Towards the very end, it did. But at that point, I was like, these are my pitches. I'll just do this. Gotcha. So never. I probably should have it towards the end just to mix. Because
it's still dirty. Just so you know. I mean, whenever we just throw, it's
half of what it used to be.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's half of what it used to be, and it's still dirty.
Yeah.
And so
we'll bring it back on live BP to the.
Hey, we may need it. Obviously, kids moving back. Father in the Father Mounds, bigger fields, and so it's time.
We'll see.
And kids are big now. Yeah. I mean, I keep hitting on that, but yeah, it's a.
Brian's impressed with the size of kids these days. So.
And the best way you can be.
Yeah, absolutely. So All-Star games, I think the Pro Bowl, I'll look forward to seeing whatever skills competition. I probably won't be watching the flag football game much.
I probably won't watch any of it.
Yeah,
it just doesn't appeal to me.
Might have it on the TV if we're just around doing
I almost want to rebel against the Super Bowl. Like, I do not want to see Eagles and Kansas City again.
You'll watch it.
I mean, I will, along with another 100 million people or how many ever, but it's just like, I mean, I want them both to lose. I want them both to lose.
I've seen a lot of that narrative online. People are tired.
I mean, there's no objections. I don't think there's any kind of shadiness. It's just Kansas City's really good. Philadelphia figures out a way to win. And how about the Philadelphia guy dying? 18-year-old kid? I
saw that. Yeah, fell off a light pole. That's such an odd thing that people in Philadelphia, they climb the light poles and I mean, yeah, sad that he fell off. But when the Phillies won the series, they greased the poles, and when the Eagles won, they greased the light poles so people wouldn't
he was up there and he was reaching for, so it's on video. He was reaching, I didn't see the entirety, but he was reaching for a flag, like a banter, and as he reached, his other hand slipped, and he went down head first. And I
didn't see. I don't want to see I didn't see the video.
Terrible.
But yeah, hey, so when you're out there celebrating, just be.
We've talked about it. Yeah. Cheer for your team. Ridiculous celebrations do nothing to enhance your experience. No. There's nothing.
I mean, go out and have a pop, have your favorite beverage, cheer with your high five. But you see people lighting cars on fire and stuff.
Yeah, shooting guns. There was a video of a Eagles fan, legitimately, the guy was videoing and he had it up and he was kind of showing the crowd. And then all of a sudden you see a gun pop up out of the crowd and he goes, pop, pop, pop. And then he's like, dude, that sounded like a gun. And he goes back down and then he reviews it and he's like, dude, it was a gun. The guy's 8 feet away from us shooting a gun up in the air. Those bullets got to land somewhere.
They got to land. Yeah. They got to land somewhere. And
so, I mean, I know we took this down a turn, but the Pro Bowl, probably not watching. Obviously, the NBA, sometimes I'll catch some of the skills.
The dunk contest.
I'll catch the highlights of the dunks. I mean, again, there's only so much you can do with the dunks. Yeah. I feel like we're to that point where, it's only so many 360s take off from the foul line. Other names that I can't recall.
So I used to be able to dunk. I could do a 360. I could do some. I wasn't doing between my legs or anything like that. I didn't have that much hang time, but I could move around a little bit. And yesterday I took my son to basketball practice, and we were the first two there. And he's up trying to touch the backboard stuff. He's 5'7" or so, and just trying to reach stuff. And I was like, man, let's see if I can get the rim. I got up and I couldn't grab it, but I touched.
You still can't touch it.
I touched the rim.
Now 6'7", long arms,
6'5" and a half, 6'5" 275.
Hey, so you're down there, so that's good.
Yeah, and then but just touched it and
felt good.
Felt a little
How'd you feel?
My body kind of tingled after because I was extending myself a little bit. Hadn't tried to reach that much. in a while. I'm more of the perimeter guy, kind of back somebody down.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that shot these days. So, all right, man. Well, thank you all for listening to our walk down All-Star games, Pro Bowls, that sort of thing. Really enjoyed talking about it. Hey, if you have questions, if you have things you want to hear us talk about, hey, send us an email. WrightStewPodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. We'd love to hear some topics that you want to hear about. Brian and I have topics for days, but we want to talk about what matters most to you all. So WrightStewPodcast@gmail.com. Wright Stew with the W at the beginning of Wright. So WrightStewPodcast@gmail.com. Hey, we would love to hear from you. Send us some suggestions. We would love to hear those as well. But otherwise, we hope you enjoy those All-Star games, and we'll talk to you soon.
Out. Go Pack.